reign of rhythm games has long since passed. Guitar Hero, Rock Band, Parappa the Rapper, titans of a musical revolution, held afloat by plastic accessories and the birth of meaningful downloadable content. Today, these giants slumber, the products of total market oversaturation. Yet, there exists a rhythm game that still soars high, a title you've likely also never heard of. Today, let's go on a journey laced with thumping techno beats, entrancing polygonal architecture, and a little LSD. Welcome to the story of Rez. The year is 1994, and a talented young game developer by the name of Tetsuya Mizuguchi is currently doing some research work in Europe. This research? It's for a game, of course. The upcoming and hotly anticipated Sega Rally Championship 2. Tonight, however, Mizuguchi has different plans. He and a few friends are about to attend an open-air music festival, the legendary Street Parade. This is without a doubt the ultimate techno carnival, with up to over 1 million attendees at a time. Holy shit, that's a lot of meat. While soaking in the thumping sounds, Mizuguchi notices something intriguing about the gathered crowds. It's not the dancing, not exactly. Instead, he finds himself taken aback by the hypnotic sway of humanity, a rolling ocean of enjoyment and appreciation in unison. This is, in Mizuguchi's eyes, how people truly connect, through the spiritual rhythms and bouncing beats of shared music. Thus, in a moment of freeform inspiration, our boy gets an idea. Sega Rally's great and all, but Mizuguchi wants to do something different. He wants to make a music game. But this isn't exactly going to be some regular ass button tapathon, and there won't be a single dance mat in sight. No, this is going to be Rez. Yet, as soon as Mizuguchi's vision arrives, it quickly fizzles out. The ideas are all in place, sure, but the tech of 1994 just isn't quite up to scratch. Not yet. It's 1990, we've just travelled back in time, hair gel is everywhere, and the Spice Girls will soon put on a concert for a bunch of handsy aliens. Yes, that happened. Google it. Mizuguchi, on the other hand, he's currently setting up his own team. Sega wants him to spearhead the development of a few innovative titles for their newly released Dreamcast system. Feeling excited, Mizuguchi wastes no time in doing so, and the bizarrely awesome Space Channel 5 hits Japanese store shelves in 1999. The rest of the world will have to wait another year, but don't worry, because Mizuguchi is already planning his next game. In fact, he's not aiming for just gamers anymore. Instead, he wants to draw everyone in, line them up and fire awesomeness down their throats like a well-oiled cannon of cool. To him, demographics don't mean a thing. If anything, they're restrictive on the gaming experience. So with a few concepts in mind, he pitches the game to Sega. And Sega don't care, because the game makes no fucking sense. Fine, Mizuguchi thinks. If that doesn't work, I'll show them the prototype. So he does. And there it is. That little mental click that signifies the arrival of obvious, if clouded, genius. This guy's actually onto something. Boom, the game gets greenlit. Development of Mizuguchi's mysterious music game begins shortly after the release of Space Channel 5. He's also just managed to scoop up a bunch of the original dev team for the amazing Panzer Dragoon, a talented group of dedicated visionaries, if a ragtag team of misfits. Pre-production then lasts a year, and Mizuguchi's idea meets its fair share of frustrations. This is mostly down to the sheer variety of staff on his team, because when you shove that much talent under one roof, arguments will happen, and that's not always a bad thing. Oh, and don't forget about the name of this title in progress. The Sound Project. No, that doesn't sound right. Project Eden. Surely we can do better than that. Alright, what about K Project? Okay. Let's break things down and go as basic as possible. Hear me out. Vibes. Oh, come on. Suddenly, somebody on the dev team suggests Rez, a clever little contraction of the word resolve.
What?
Mizuguchi thinks for a moment, and yeah, that's it. That's his game right there, Rez. Though he'll later claim in an interview with Edge magazine that the name actually comes from the concept of de-rezzing, a process seen in the movie Tron. Well, director Jun Kobayashi claims that it's definitely a contraction of the word resolute, so it's anyone's guess at this point. In desperate need of minds to share the load of Rez's extensive vision, Jun Kobayashi meets up with a group of renowned video jockeys, classically named Mummies and Dolphin Machine. Yep, oh yeah, and Kobayashi's also a member too. Sadly, while Mizuguchi tries his damned hardest, these young DJs don't really get anything about his game. Luckily, however, after being shown a few programming prototypes, much like with Sega, the vision clicks right into place. The pace of production increases, and the game is now no longer a Dreamcast exclusive. Instead, development just began for a PlayStation 2 version. This is in part due to the fact that the Dreamcast has been, well, a bit of a bloody failure. Sadly, Mizuguchi's team's morale begins to dip in turn. One new platform was enough of a development challenge alone, and now Sega's expecting twice the work? Not to mention, this is going to be Sega's first third-party release on the PS2 system. No pressure, guys, no pressure. And you know, the PlayStation 2 development architecture is and was a phenomenally hard bitch to work with. Did you hear that? It's almost like some kind of buzzing sound. Oh, that's right. Look over there. It's the official Rez vibrator. Yes, you don't need to skip back 5 seconds. I definitely just said what your kinky little ears thought they heard. See, our boy Mizuguchi's first gameplay concept went as follows. The player shoots objects, and these objects being damaged or destroyed affects the game's dynamic soundtrack. The game controller then vibrates in reaction to these changes, creating a beat that the player can actually feel. That's actually pretty damn clever. And don't worry, there really is a vibrator, and we'll get to it soon. So what's Mizuguchi doing now? He's spending most of the development time listening to music, but that's actually a good thing, because impressive techno tracks don't exactly incite anger. And why is this important? Because Rez, unlike many other shooters of the time, is non-violent. First and foremost, Mizuguchi knew he wanted to allow room for players to make mistakes.
Calm down! You calm the fuck down! There's a misinput!
Let's be honest, nobody's a pro from the start, but with rhythm games, mistakes can often lead to clunky mix-up in sound and visuals. So how does Rez's development team get around this? How do you make people feel good about their cock-ups? Call and response. In essence, the player controls the game as a musician of sorts, and the game, an overhyped audience, responds accordingly. It's a creative back and forth of sorts. You affect the game, and the game rewards you in turn, no matter what. But it goes far deeper than that. See, the dev team's actually spending quite a while quantizing the in-game notes. What this means is that no matter how imprecise the player's actions may be, the resulting sounds will always be on beat. The result? A fluid feeling of gameplay mastery from the very first moment you pick up the vibrate controller. This in turn creates a rhythmic bond of sorts between player and game, something far stronger than the feel of typical rumble controls. Still, it's been decided that Rez will most definitely be an on-rails shooter, primarily because the dev team have such classics under their belts as Sega Rally and Panzer Dragoon. If it ain't broken, don't try and fix it. Development on Rez continues for another few months, only to be thrown off its twisting rails by the PS2's stubborn architecture. Worse, the current prototypes aren't very fun to play, since nobody can actually understand what the hell's going on in the game. Abstract shapes, Space Harrier-esque characters. It's all a bit too wild for most players. Something has to change, thus a decision is made. The dev team will streamline the game's audio and visual creations, opting for more traditional characters than the polygonal oddities of Mizuguchi's original vision. It's a compromise, sure, but there's a fine line between creating Kojima and Kojima. It's vibrator time, baby. After handling the PS2's revolutionary DualShock 2 controller, Mizuguchi has a bit of a nifty idea. This idea, you ask? The custom Rez Trance vibrator, of course. This small piece of plastic will work in tandem with the official PS2 controller. Now, obviously, this all started off as a bit of a joke. A giggle-worthy concept to be poked and prodded at by the dev team. Only that's not what happened, because when Mizuguchi feels inspiration strike, inspiration gets felt. So, the vibrator was made, and it eventually even saw release. Poking and prodding? Well, that's up to you, but at least it's waterproof. God, I hope it's waterproof. With the wireframe graphics finally locked into place, it's over to Keiichi Sugiyama to handle the sound design. No easy task when you're trying to realise Mizuguchi's epic vision, but having experience with Sega's Wavemaster label, he's practically got skill leaking out of his fingertips. Coordinating with Masakazu Hiroshi, a goal is quickly reached in terms of the game's sound design, to elicit emotional and psychological responses from players. Thus, the sound team gets to work, and after many hours of enthusiastic research, they return to the world with a single word: synesthesia. This is a rare condition where individuals affected may hear a smell, feel a colour, or taste a musical note. Bizarre, yes. Fascinating, most definitely. With this mind-bending concept in mind, a matching process follows, and it's frustrating as hell for the dev team. Which sound works with which character? What about the level layouts? There's entire sections of lengthy boss battles to boot. Every single note has to match all other aspects of gameplay, or the entire thing falls to its knees in seconds. Finally, all of the pieces are in place, and the game is almost ready for release. Mizuguchi is currently attending the Shibuya Sony PlayStation 2 party. Sadly, however, he doesn't see any support for his game. Well, that's not good at all. So what does Mizuguchi do? He dyes his hair blinding white, hops up onto the stage, and plays the game by himself for a while. He then puts the controller down, doesn't say a fucking word, and hops back off the stage like an absolute badass. Rez, he thinks, can speak for itself. Everyone loves it, everyone wants it, and this game is going to be a big success. In their own words, Rez will not only make but change history for music in games. November 11th. 2001. Rez releases in Japan for both the PlayStation 2 and Dreamcast systems. There's also a limited Absolute Set Edition if you're looking for a vibrator. January and February 2002 follow, and the game also sees release in North America and Europe, including stricter access to certain slippery accessories. Japanese gaming magazine Famitsu praises all aspects of Rez's abstract gameplay on PS2, with the Dreamcast version not faring quite as well, having missed out on the vibrator. Wow, this thing really won't stop popping back up. Edge also gives the PS2 version a high score. The visuals are masterful and the music to boot, but not everyone has caught Rez fever. Eurogamer's Martin Taylor notices a pretty glaring issue with the game: content. Or, in Rez's case, the lack of. Is it a fun experience? Most definitely, but is it worth a full price purchase? Maybe not. IGN and the official Dreamcast UK magazine follow with similar reviews, noting that the game's ballsy style and sound would likely limit its audience, and in turn possible sales. Still, with all of these reviews in mind, for those gamers who gave Rez a fair chance, its blend of trippy visuals and bouncing music strike a vein so primal, they're hit with a compulsion to explore every inch of the game's wireframe world. Colourful, tightly designed, gorgeous to hear, and oftentimes thoroughly epic. There truly is something synthetic about this quirky little Japanese game. So much so that in 2008, Rez HD saw release on the Xbox 360's live arcade marketplace. Developed by Mizuguchi's own studio, this remaster includes 5.1 surround sound and a silky smooth 60 FPS. Next, Rez Infinite, of course, containing a brand new area titled Area X, built from scratch using the Unreal 4 engine, and the inclusion of full immersive VR, it's safe to say that fans of the original game were in awe. And here we find ourselves today, floating through an age of digital ubiquity, piloting our own wireframe avatars. Rez may be a product of the past, an experience in abstract experimentation and trippy tidings, but few modern rhythm games compare to its timeless visuals and pitch-perfect sounds. It's a short ride, sure, and its narrative leaves room for wild interpretation, but when you're strapped in and fully immersed, it comes as no surprise when your heart begins to race. Each note a beat skipped, and every combo a surge of thumping adrenaline. I've been Forgotten Legends, and until next time, take care.